Hello, we are live at the Assembly Gardens. Welcome back to another episode of Just Get a Real Job with your host, me, Jamie McKinley. I'm thrilled to be joined by Fraser and Olivia, who are about to take their show, Common Tongue, to the Edinburgh Fringe. How are you both doing? Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Well, you're about to, as I said, take Common Tongue to the Fringe in 2 days. How are you both feeling about the show, and do you feel ready for it?
Yeah, I'm buzzing. I think it is a show that needs an audience. We did the dress rehearsal last night and it was just so nice to get responses again and remember how it makes people feel. So yeah, I'm buzzing to have like a wider audience for it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's really, it feels really special when you make a show and you get to bring it back. You know, this is the third time that we've brought the show back in some form, and I think what's especially exciting about the Fringe is that it sort of opens the show up to a really diverse audience, a really international audience. So like I'm just really excited to have the show be available to those people and to be on for such a long time as well. Do you know, it'll be the longest. Yeah. We did the tour last year, which was like 14 to 15 shows, and this, you know, in August, Olivia's going to do like double that. So yeah, it's really exciting to be able to like take the show back out again.
Well, you guys, you've had quite a distinctive poster for your show, because I remember I've seen it so many times when you're on your tour and stuff. So it's good that it's now sort of getting that full Fringe run. And I mean, it's always nice being at the Fringe, because even recording this, like we're in the sort of rooftop of the Assembly Ground, you can hear the ambience of it all around.
Yeah.
So the listeners, if you can hear that like background noise that you're not used to normally, it just soak up.
It's the vibe. Yeah.
Vibe of the Fringe,
yeah.
But before we sort of get into your show, this Just Get Real Job is a podcast all about creative careers, the reality of doing them. I know you're both pursuing your own sort of creative careers and stuff, but can you just sort of introduce yourselves both first and tell the listeners a bit about yourselves, like what you do for a living and how you'd sort of make that work?
Yeah, of course.
There you go.
Yeah, right. So I'm a theatre director primarily. I did write Common Tongue, but I think don't write very much else really. Like I'm much more of a theatre director now. I sort of started I guess like in youth theatre as a teenager, as I thought I wanted to be an actor. Very quickly realised that I did not want to be an actor.
It's a common one, isn't it?
Yeah. And for sort of when I was in high school, got really into like filmmaking and stuff. And so when I left high school, I went to do the film making undergraduate degree at the Conservatoire in Glasgow, and I had a really good time, but sort of like very quickly just really missed theatre. And I think what's so great about that school is that it's obviously so cross-disciplinary, so you're sort of in with actors and composers, and I really quickly was like, I really miss being in like theatre environments, and I think I hadn't quite connected the dots that you could work in theatre and not be an actor. I think that hadn't felt like it was like a viable path, I suppose, for a job. But while I was at RCS, I kind of did a little bit of like student theatre stuff, a little bit of like, you know, making my own little bits and bobs. And I finished that course in 2020. So it was a pretty bad time to be like going into like the world of work. And so I spent a couple of years like trying to work as a freelance director in Scotland, which was really, really hard for lots of reasons. I was kind of directing my own work really, was kind of writing and co-writing stuff just to have something to direct and something to make. And I was able to do a little bit of that, but I was really like, you know, kind of flying by the seat of my pants. Felt like I was really like kind of making it up as I went along. Was trying to get like assistant director work, and that was really hard at the time. Still is really hard. And then I worked with a really incredible director at one point. I was speaking to them about it, and they sort of suggested I'm a directing masters in London at Birkbeck, which I ended up going to do. Was really lucky enough to like get into and get a scholarship, because it's really expensive, and I sort of wouldn't have been able to go and do that directing masters without that support financially. And that course was really, really, really incredible, and sort of instilled a lot of like confidence and allowed me time and space to like think about the kind of like director I wanted to be and the kind of work I wanted to make and how I wanted to, I guess, like conduct myself as an artist. And since finishing that course, I've now been kind of working as a freelance director in Scotland. Still very much kind of at the beginning of that journey, really.
No, it's super interesting. The thing I want to quickly pick out even before I ask Olivia about her sort of what she does in her sort of entry into this industry is, you were talking about how like you often think that, I don't know, I feel like when we grow up in Scotland that you go to school here, you always like the sort of options that you could work in the creative industry are you could be an actor or be like a film director. You don't know what all these other roles are.
Yeah.
And that's such a common thing we get on this podcast when I interview people. And I was the same. It's like, I could be an actor or director. It's like all the other things, like theatre director or an assistant director in the theatre, or what, like even what I do in TV as a script. They're not jobs we know about at school. So
no, exactly.
You always sort of try and pursue the really hard ones to do, and then realise there's all these other roles available.
Yeah,
they're so important.
I know, and I think it's such a like zigzaggy like sideways journey as well. I think everyone probably feels this way. I think one of the biggest early realizations I had about like my own career trajectory was that like I can't replicate someone else's trajectory, right? Like I think a couple of years ago I definitely felt like I was like, oh, this director is kind of doing what I want to be doing and they did X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to try and do the same thing to do the same path. But actually, like that's just not how it works ever. And I think you have to just embrace the opportunities that come your way and make the most of them. And I think that shift in mindset has been really healthy actually, and makes it easier to like appreciate the opportunities you do have and not feel really like jealous, I suppose, which I think is can be quite a common feeling.
100%. You're always comparing yourself, and the zigzag thing's true. The best thing I've heard it described as snakes and ladders. Really like that. No, thanks for answering. Olivia, tell us about your sort of way into this industry and a bit about you.
So I've been acting since I was like 6, like very, very early on. I kind of realised that it was something I just really liked attention, I think. Like would come out from behind my nana's curtains and like jump up onto the puffy and do like a wee performance for them. And so quickly my mum and my nana facilitated me going to youth theatres. So started off at Cumbernauld Theatre, and then ended up at the Glasgow Acting Academy. And then kind of fell out of it when I started partying. I played handball as well. And there was a bit of a sliding doors moment where I got into the handball team for the Great Britain.
The Troy Bolton story?
No, I can. I got asked to go to like a camp for handball, but then at the same time my pals and I were all meant to be going to Magaluf. So I went to Magaluf and never did the handball, which was a good thing because then when I left school, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I'd kind of fallen into partying, fallen out of going to drama classes, going to handball and that. And then went and volunteered in South Africa for a year with a company called Project Trust. And then when I came back again, found myself in this kind of like, what am I doing? And I went back into Glasgow Acting Academy, and a wonderful woman called Tanya. She was kind of like, have you heard of East 15? One of my friends from GA had been there. I'd gone down to do the physical theatre course. Do you know what I mean? I walked back into the acting academy and I was like, why did I ever think that this wasn't what I wanted to do? Just straight away, that kind of feeling in the pit of your tummy of like, this is it. And I had missed it. Subconsciously, I'd missed it. I think I needed to do that to get that life experience and that. Not in a like, I'm seeking it out to be an actor way, but just like, again, that snakes and ladders zigzag thing. So then auditioned for drama schools, got into East 15 acting community theatre course, which again, snakes and ladders, sliding doors, didn't even know it was a course, but I'm quite a socially conscious person, so it felt, as soon as I knew what it was, it kind of fell into place, and that was exactly where I was meant to be. So at the acting community theatre course, she really has made a course so that you're kind of an all-round creative, so you can facilitate. I was jumping a bit down there, calling that to Fraser, do you know I'm circus qualified? You wouldn't believe it. So I graduated 2019, so just before COVID. So that was hard. Came back up the road pretty soon after that, mainly because you had to. And again, that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, but thank God I did, because I think coming home and being in Scotland is where I've been able to really tap into that kind of creative potential and meet the people that I'm meant to meet and just be in the places that I feel like I'm meant to be in. So yeah, really lucky.
I love the phrase "up the road." There's all that talk about the north. I'm like,
exactly. Oh Christ, don't get me started on that.
Want to talk about Common Tongue? Obviously, you're starting the show on Friday. What can people expect from it? And obviously, tell us about the show. I know, Fraser, this has come from your own mind. You wrote this show.
From the minds, yeah. I suppose. I sort of spoke about this yesterday as well, actually, to someone. I made the first sort of version of what I thought was the play in like 2021, when I think everyone was like in lockdown and like writing things because they had nothing better to do. And I didn't. And I didn't think it was going to be a play at all. Really, I kind of wrote like a 10-page like, I suppose, like a bad poem, and then it kind of sat in a drawer for a while, and then a year later I kind of found it again and was like, oh wait, there's maybe like a thing in this. I definitely like, had a bit of a bee in my bonnet about like Scottish identity, and felt like I really wanted to like ask a lot of big questions about that, and was really kind of like grappling with the like sort of muddiness of that, and so I kind of wrote the first draft, which was like very, very on the nose, and like wasn't really a story, and was definitely like, I'm writing a play about a theme, and that's going to be the play, you know. And we kind of developed the play over like a year. Olivia, we did a development week in 2023, and Olivia joined the process at that point actually, and we really turned what was like a sort of rubbish, like. I mean, there was lots of like nice little moments in there, but I think it wasn't a story, right? And I think the greatest evolution of the play was actually making it about this young woman called Bonnie, and actually making it a story about this young woman sort of coming of age and grappling with her own identity, and her relationship with her papa, who's like a sort of like old school sort of Scots speaker, I suppose.
Explain what papa is, just in case.
Yeah, we do have quite a lot of UK wide listeners.
Like her granddad, who is quite a sort of like staunch, your typical like West Coast Scottish old man. And Bonnie is this kind of like young girl, and the play explores her journey of like growing up and then having to really question who she is in lots of ways, and moving away and having to adjust. And I think it really is a story about that in lots of ways, about finding some like confidence in yourself, and realizing that you're like, however you are now is a product of your life before this point, and that actually that's okay. And and it's really funny, I guess, as well. Like, I think interesting that thing you said about the poster. When we first did the show, the poster image we had was Olivia, like, there's lots of like microphones in the show. It's sort of is like, so much of the show is about communication and how you use your voice.
You're both doing a great job sharing a mic. Can I just
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorry we don't have more mics available.
It's okay. But there's a bit of a like microphone motif. So the poster image was like Olivia. It was a production image of Olivia, like kind of at the end of the show, where she's, there's a bit more like frustration, and Olivia kind of like shouting into a microphone, which was the original image. And when we revisited the show for the tour, I was kind of looking at it and I was like, that actually isn't what the show is at all. Like, I think in my head, I thought it was this kind of like, ranty, frustrated, like mouthpiece, but actually it isn't that. And I think that's the joy of the show. It's much more conversational. It's much more comedic. Olivia's so funny, so warm. And so actually the new image, it was like, it's really important that we convey that that's what the show is, it is much more of a good night out than anything else. And and that is kind of where the show has landed, which feels like the really right place for it,
And it's never really clicked with me before, but what you were saying about how we went from the kind of angrier poster to the poster that we have now, I think that is a misconception about a lot of Scots as well, and I've never really thought about how that actually has a dual meaning of a lot of people. I mean, Bonnie says it in the show, a lot of people hear our accents or hear our voices, and it's not Scotland specific, but it's one of the things that I've experienced, is that thing of like, oh, they're a bit angry, they're a bit hot, when actually it's just how we talk, and so I think actually that was the first time that I've recognised that kind of similarity.
Well, you trained down south, right? So as an actor, have you had that thing where people have sort of suggested you should change your accent and stuff?
Aye, which is obviously part and parcel of the thing. Like, I love accents. The show is very accent heavy. Where like there's people from all over the world in the show that I embody. So it's not about rebelling against that. It's great if actors can do character voices and accents and things like that. However, I have felt in the past belittled and undermined because of my accent. My head of course at one point pulled me for a meeting and was like, Unity. The crux of the meeting was she was this pure battle axe Australian. She did so much for me. She was amazing. Shout out Ainsley. But the crux of the meeting was Unity realised that there's a bigger cultural difference to the way that you speak and everything to what the people in your class have. So I was the only Scottish person, not only in my class, there was only 2 Scottish people in my year. And that was kind of the quota for the rest of the years as well. So you're already like feeling quite like on your own And then, yeah, it was just kind of that my voice was brash and that it was taken the wrong way and all that. When actually, it's a conversation to be had, isn't it? It's just, is it that you aren't finding it palatable? Should I then shrink the way that I speak and the way that I want to behave in a room? So yeah, I think it's a complex one. And basically, guys, she was saying that a bigger cultural difference than what you think there is. You need to realise that this kind of code switching that so many people are expected to do. I'll go on stage and I'll do my accents and I'll do my voices, but don't police how I should be as a person and what we talk about in the show, that kind of thing of you're not taking into consideration why I talk like this or how I talk like this or who has influenced me into talking like this. And actually, when I moved down south, I get more Scottish. Because I was like, do you not like it? No, hold that.
I feel like I instinctively do that. I don't know, it's like my own little, I don't know why I'm like that, but whenever I was in London last week and I just feel like I don't know, you want to almost be more Scottish.
Yeah, and I think that's such a part of the reclamation of language, and I think Scotland has been slower in the uptake of it, and now we're seeing the Scots language bill come into place. Now we're seeing Gaelic being so much more prevalent, which is incredible. But yeah, I think it's one of those ones where it's like when you are underrepresented and then you realise that actually you're the one that can do the representing, you then hold on to it with all your might and you're like, right, it's my opportunity to champion it. It kind of come from other people.
It's interesting because it kind of ties into class and all these other
definitely.
things as well. I know, I'm sure your show gets into a lot of this. Like, it's kind of hard to articulate, actually, this whole thing.
Yeah, it's really tricky, and I think that's like the challenge of. It was one of the challenges of the play. Certainly, you know, I think the early drafts of the play were much more explicit about like naming Scots language, and actually in the development of the play, I actually stopped doing that because I think what makes how we talk in Scotland so difficult is that actually Scots language is really slippy and really it's not standardized. Spellings are inconsistent. I think you might say some words like and not others. You might say like don't but not dinny, but you might say han and not hand. Like, it's just people's natural like everyone speaks it differently, and I think there are and can be quite a lot of like gatekeepers of Scots language, and people saying you're not speaking it correctly, so you're not allowed to call yourself like Scottish, which I think is really harmful.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because even on this like podcast, like us three all have sort of different Scottish accents. I'm a Fifer originally. I don't really sound too. Yeah. I don't think I actually sound that Fife though, because I'm from Glenrothes, which is a new town. So my granny is from Hamilton. My other grandparents, like one was from Edinburgh, one was from so it's like a new town. So my family have only been there for like 3 generations. So it's like again like I just feel like I have a generic neutral East Coast, but then it's like am I policing myself? Totally. I get it, because if I speak to somebody from Glasgow, then I sometimes feel like I'm less Scottish, which is, so it's even prevalent in our own country, not just in like the whole.
I think there's a lot of that, a lot of like, oh, you are from the Borders, you've got a weird Borders accent, or you've got a weird East Coast accent, or whatever. So we're gonna like, you're not
just looking at the camera there because my friend Vi is kindly helping film this episode. She's a Borders girl, so she's nodding there.
But it's I think all that does is like undermine the identity. Like I'm from Paisley, and I spent 2 years working and studying in England, and I kind of had the opposite experience of Olivia. Like I was in lots of rooms as an assistant director, the only Scottish person in a room full of English people, and I just got so tired of having to repeat myself that my accent has changed as a result of being in those rooms, and I just was like, and like honestly, like people like taking the mick out of an accent and like parroting stuff back, or like picking up on the way you say something, and it's like small things, but like I got really tired of feeling like not listened to or not respected because of that, or having to repeat what I said. So I some partly consciously and partly subconsciously did sort of iron out how I spoke quite a lot, because I just felt I was really tired of having to like not felt like I wasn't being listened to properly, but I think that's also okay, and I think like it doesn't change.
It's interesting as well because I think it does sometimes go back to class. My girlfriend's from the north of England, from Carlisle, and I think this is not just an experience that people in Scotland feel. I think it's like it goes back to maybe that old sort of BBC voice
Yeah.
thing. I think
It
is
does
in some ways.
Yeah, it does, and I think that is historically why Scots specifically has been marginalised, is that it was seen as a working class language and or a working class slang. Do you know? I think it's been treated as like derogatory, as not proper English for people who are like uneducated or don't have a grasp of English. Whereas like that obviously isn't the case, and it's trying to instill in people, which is one of the big reasons that I started making the show at all, was to like fight this idea or challenge this idea that actually there are a majority of Scots language speakers in Scotland who don't recognise that how they speak is a language.
There we go. We're getting some fringe background. Yeah. Olivia, I'd love to sort of ask you as well how you found embodying this character in the show.
So Bonnie's pretty similar to me. I think I sometimes say that Bonnie's me if I didn't have a jab in me, like if I couldn't potentially fight. She's much more like, she's very much like figuring things out, where I'm a bit more headstrong. And I think that's nice. That balance is so nice to come into, and it really works with the audience. And I love her. Like, I get pretty gushing when I talk about it.
Because you like have you joined the show really early on, and so you were kind of like, I think Olivia's quite symbiotic with the character, because it feels like we developed that character and that journey together, right?
And it was kind of in Platform in Easter House, we were kind of going, oh my god, I've just thought of something else that happened to me when I was down south, or here's what happened to me when I was here, or here's what happened to me when I was here. And so the thing is, it's the same as how you talk about how much it has to do with working classness, how much it has to do with like where you were brought up and all that. And actually, I think the thing about Bonnie and the thing about a lot of people is that you're so made by the things and the people around you and your environment around you. And I think that's what Bonnie's all about, is like almost like she's this amalgamation of all these different bits that we wanted to talk about. And yet it's still so real, because they're genuine experiences. So yeah, she's like my wee bestie. I love coming back to her. Like, she's and Common Tongue's done so much for us. It's really like opened a lot of doors, but also just like the connections that we've been able to have with the audiences are like inexplicable. Like, until you actually see the audience's reaction and the anecdotes that they come with you, and the emotion that they come with you. When we premiered it in Cumbernauld Theatre, a guy came up to me, like big brawn guy, and he's had the reddest face and these big puffy eyes and all that, and he'd just moved up from living in England for about 20, 30 years, and he'd been crying his eyes out throughout the play. And I just think to be able to, in a good way, he was like, this is terrible. To be able to give that to people, and to be able to give people that fondness of their home again, I think is so fab, and Bonnie allows us to do that.
And it's also nice when people are able to connect with theatre, because I still think, unfortunately, a lot of theatre feels very inaccessible to a lot of communities, especially working class communities. Like, people see theatre as quite a Shakespeare. It's like they have a specific image of it, whereas like your show is much more like they can go and have a good time, by the sounds of it. And
definitely.
I think it's also about like, I think that really is the case, and I think that sorry, we're being blown away here.
This is recording in the wild.
I know. I think in some ways, like, it's even about like the architecture of a theatre, right? And actually, like, a theatre building being a place that feels inaccessible to the people that live there. And I think there are lots of theatres where that isn't the case, and there are lots of theatres that are where that is the case. And I think some people just don't feel like it's a place where they can come and where they can belong. And I think sometimes it is about, it's not always possible. It's really hard. It can be really expensive, but sometimes it is about taking work out into other spaces, and I think you have to meet people where they are.
And that's why it's such a nice way that you guys did that tour, and it's like you're going to towns that maybe don't get to come to the Edinburgh Fringe, because like we are, I mean, it's great to be here, but it's so expensive for punters.
Exactly.
Inaccessible.
Yeah, totally. And when we did the tour last year, it was a co-production with the Gaiety and AIR, and they've got a really great like rural touring network. So we took it to like really tiny rural community spaces around Ayrshire, which was so amazing. And we got to meet audiences who would never have made it to the Gaiety. And even speaking about the Fringe, in 2024, I directed a play called Athens of the North, which was by an Edinburgh playwright and actor, a guy called Mark Hanna. And we last year we did the play at the Storytelling Centre, but the year before that we did it at the Hibernian Supporters Club on Easter Road, and we had so many Edinburgh people come to that show who never had come to a show at the Fringe before, because it was in a space that felt like it was theirs. Felt like we were coming to them on their territory, and it wasn't like a space that felt inaccessible. So, I think that when we're talking about trying to reach audiences, I think a lot of it is to do with space and how actually it's our job to do the work. We can't just open the door and expect people to come. We have to really 100% do that work there.
And I think as well, there's so much, for want of a better expression, poverty porn out there. So actually, it's
we're
really
so
nice.
bad for doing this.
Yeah,
I think some of the stuff
really
Scotland
bad.
makes is we're quite bad.
Yeah, and people love it. They pure lap it up. So actually, people from outside of the community normally lap it up because look at the wee working class people, they're having a hard time. Where Common Tongue is actually about the joy of working classness and finding that joy and kind of doubling down on it and kind of it exemplifies how working class life is based on the relationships that you build and the care that you have for one another. And the hardest of times, like talking about my journey, when me and my mammy never had 2 pennies to rub together, she still made sure that I went to drama classes. Do you know what I mean? It's like that kind of resilience, and that's what people want to see on stage, especially the working class community. Stop asking them to go to things that are about the trauma that they've already lived.
I think another thing, and this is so common because when I've worked in TV development before, I think there's so many well-meaning people there, but I think the common thing is because people want to mean well and they want to represent, but it sometimes becomes too much of a box tick. You're making a show about somebody who's marginalised, but that's all the show's about. It's not about the nuance of that, and it's not a good story. You know what I mean? It's just about their marginalisation, which isn't always the best way to represent those people.
Definitely.
It's actually about tell a story that's about them. And they're also that thing. They're not just that thing. And I think that's what we need to try and get better at.
And I think there's enough. I mean, we're living in a really, really horrible time in the world. And so I think the more that we can promote a bit of joy, the better. And I think that's kind of what we learned about Common Tongue in the past 2 years, is that actually what people love about it is that resilience, is that kind of feeling of, this is shite, but it's going to be all right. And when we can still laugh, and that was still so funny. And I remember this thing that happened to me, and God, it felt so crap at the time, but that was really formative, or that was really funny, or that was a story that I'll tell forever, and just kind of going back to that, we've lost a lot of again, to go back to a working class point, but we've lost a lot of the places that the working class community used to tell stories. And so for us to then not bridge the gap to get working class people to come out to the theatre, it's kind of we've always thought that Common Tongue would work in a pub setting as much as it would work in a classroom setting, but that village storytelling, which is why the Storytelling Centre is the perfect venue for it, because it does feel very much like you've had a couple of pints and you're going like that. Right, wait till I tell you this one.
That's so true. This week's episode is brought to you by Assembly Festival. Assembly Festival has been at the centre of Edinburgh's art scene for 45 years, and this year the Edinburgh Fringe is presenting over 240 shows, including this week's guest. Just get a real job. So this might be a challenge for you both, but in sort of a few sentences, why should people come and see Common Tongue, and tell us where it's on and all that?
You go first.
Yes, okay. It's on at 2:45 p.m. at the Scottish Storytelling Centre every day until the 31st of August, apart from Wednesdays. Olivia's having a nap on those days. I think people should see Common Tongue because Olivia is really fantastic in it. I think that's the really the best way to sell it. I think that when it's a play for one actor, everything hinges on that actor's ability to hold a room. And for me, Olivia makes the show beyond what I thought could be possible. And watching her hold an audience every night is such a massive privilege. So yeah, it's really great to be it. You want to be in that room. You really do. She's fantastic.
Olivia?
I'm very great.
You're gonna have to big him up now.
I know, Ken. I mean, it is to pick you up, but because the only way that I can do all of that is because of the words, and the words that Fraser's given me, and the way that they connect with people. is why you should come and see the show. It's about that joy we were talking about. It's about that rekindling of the romance of loving yourself and loving your language and loving your country. Totally. And I think, like, I've spoken a lot. This isn't that. I can't do short sentences. I'm a pure Falkirk Leghorn. I think I've spoken a lot in a couple of interviews that we've done about how much people love the Tartan Army over in Boston.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And I think actually Common Tongue bottles that. I think it really bottles that sense of pride. And again, that's whether you're Scottish or not. I think it in a time where people are trying to degrade folks' identity at all costs, when individualism has taken over from individuality, I think Common Tongue goes some way to rectifying that. God, those were a lot of big words,
but but I want to sort of get stay on that, because my next question for you both was about how you both feel as creatives working within Scotland and what we can maybe do more as an industry in Scotland. And I think what's inspired me a lot this summer is, I think even the Commonwealth Games actually managed to tap into this as well, but what the Tartan Army did in Boston, it went global. And I think there's a real opportunity for us I think we should do more than we're doing. I think we have the opportunity as a country culturally to really like sell ourselves better internationally.
Definitely.
But I don't know, how do you both feel about that, and how do you both feel sort of being...
So what you're saying is we should take Common Tongue to America?
Well,
I agree.
The opportunity.
Definitely. I think we've seen an uptake in regional accents across the board in Great Britain, and Scotland's kind of been left behind on that. We're trying to do it. There's obviously stuff that's going to come out of BBC Scotland in the place of River City, unfortunately. And we'll see how they get on. Hopefully they can do a bit to promote it. But I totally agree with you. It feels like nobody was expecting that kind of soft power that we got from the Tartan Army. No one was expecting it to be as kind of colossal as what it was. So yeah, I think it's about packaging in that whilst moving away from this shortbread tin Scot stuff.
I completely agree.
Because it wasn't about the kilts, it wasn't about the CU Jimmy hats, which thank God we've moved away from, guys. I'm so glad I'm not seeing that many of them. It wasn't about that. It was about the personalities. It was about the way that they made people feel. It was about the way that they filled bars with singing and also making sure that that's what we're seeing on our streets as well. Because obviously at the minute it's not. And I think that Scottish identity that I'm so proud of is an identity of solidarity. And the more we see that, I think the easier it is to promote it to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things for me. I think there's something that I think about a lot, which is that I feel like I see a lot of work being made in Scotland that feels a little bit afraid to be really sincere. I think there's a feeling in a lot of work that I see that slightly is being apologetic or slightly doing a little, like, sort of always doing a bit of a nudge wink to the audience of like, oh yeah, but it's always a little bit silly, or we're going to kind of undercut or undersell ourselves. Yeah. And I think that's it's the same thing as, I think it's just symptomatic of Scottish, this thing of being apologetic about who you are, and the sort of tall puppy syndrome, and not wanting to, and the Scottish cringe. And I think that in some way lies in a lot of the output of the work, that we can't, take the work that we make really seriously, and I think sometimes I would just wish that we as a sector or as an industry, like, are able to like do things with a lot of conviction and a lot of ambition. And I think there are lots of really incredible artists in Scotland. And it's about, having lots of ambition and not being afraid to be like, actually, we're able to make incredibly high quality work, incredibly successful, exciting work. And we don't have to shy away from that. We don't have to apologize for it. Yeah. Actually, it's fine to like work really hard and care a lot about the work and make something really high quality. And I also think as well, like, we are here at the Fringe right now. It's day one today of the biggest arts festival in the world, and it happens in Scotland, and it happens, in Edinburgh. And I think sometimes it's really easy to like forget that it happens in Scotland. Sometimes it sort of feels like it's put upon Edinburgh, but actually, like, the biggest arts festival in the world happens in Scotland, and that's like a really amazing. We're so lucky that is the case, and I think that we should always be proud of that, and always shout about that, and always remind people that like they're coming here to see shows, and that work is being made here by artists who make work here every month
Yeah.
of the year, you know.
And I think sometimes a lot of people in Scotland feel that they want that attention not just in August.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
hope that's something that I want to quickly pick up on that tall poppy thing. I think that's so true. I think it's a UK wide thing for people I interview as well. I think it's like, even myself, like starting a podcast, like you feel embarrassed to be posting stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like stuff that I've done, 200 odd episodes of this show now, and I'm nearly doing it for 6 years, but I still have that ingrained thing. Like, it's a bit embarrassing, like putting yourself out there. I'm sure you'd have that sometimes when you're performing and acting, but like, I think we tried doing. Oh wow!
Oh,
Maybe they do think. Maybe they do think we're embarrassing.
yeah.
But I do. I think like, I don't know. It's something. I think you're right. We do need to try and shake that off, because we should like put more sort of seriousness on having an artistic career and what that can contribute.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like, I don't know. I think for me, I don't want to like rag on it too much, but I think I saw some stuff from like the Commonwealth Games opening ceremony this year, and like, it was like Sam Hewn in a kilt with a Loch Ness monster and a giant Tunnock's tea cake, and I just was a bit like, I think I felt a little bit like, surely as like a nation and a culture, we are more than this.
I agree with, again, I think that goes back to this sort of shortbread tin version of
Totally.
Scotland, which I think we sell a lot very well, but we need to try and sell that, but the other stuff as well.
And I think it felt like the same party line as the 2014 Commonwealth Games, and I was like, I think that we sometimes are just really afraid of like of being sincere, and I think that's something that they don't have in England in the same way at all. I think it's definitely. I just think there's a lot of really incredible, important stuff in Scotland and our history and our culture today that we can celebrate without making the sort of easy, sort of contemporary shortbread tin comparisons.
100%. I think as well, like, we need to get better at showing the communities in public what the arts contributes back to them as well, because I think sometimes it's the arts are seen as a bit of a hobby or a glamorized career, where it can contribute a lot to like the public. I mean, the BBC did that study, I think in 2025, for every pound they spent, I think £3.50 went back into the economy. Like, it's not just about the money stuff, it's like what it does for communities. But I think we need to try and show more like what we can do for like everyday lives as well, and why we should be more valued.
And I think it does all trickle down from like money as well. Obviously, like all the stuff takes time and a lot and funding and support. There's that like mental statistic that was one about last year that like the city of Berlin has 3 times the arts and culture funding than the whole of the UK.
I could believe that.
And do you know what I mean? It's like, it's actually about there has to be a shifting of priorities on like a governmental level about the value of culture. And again, like to look at what we're at right now, the Fringe, and the amount of people that come here, and the value of arts and culture, not just theatre, but like all arts and culture in Scotland has so much value and so much importance, but it has to be supported and funded. It's the only way that you can the only way you can get better at your job is by doing it, right? Completely. And like, if you can't afford to do it, you're not able to develop. And people, I think that's the biggest problem in terms of like career trajectory and growth, is that so many people in Scotland don't have the opportunity to continue to make work.
I think the other problem is that so many people are just surviving, so they can't think more long term. And so if you're just surviving, you can't be as innovative.
You also can't take risks, right? Like, I think if you're like, oh, I've spent every penny and I've got this one opportunity to make a show, I'm not going to take a gamble on it. And that's true for theatres as well. I think that's a whole other conversation about like the theatres of Scotland and their programming and what they're making. But like, when they can only afford to produce 3 shows a year, you can't afford to take a risk on anything. So it means that everything by necessity has to be a little bit safe, which means that you can't develop or try things or take a gamble. But it all comes from resource, and that I think unfortunately is kind of like above our heads in lots of ways.
Completely.
I think as well, like, because obviously we're talking about like non-theatre goers, and the way that what I was thinking of when you were talking about that there was, it has to trickle down, but it also comes from the grassroots, doesn't it? And so for like non-theatre goers, they're talking about it a lot in football at the minute as well, where there was a game the other day where there was only 2 players that were playing for both across the board who were from Scotland. And it's almost like it's across the board at the minute, where there is a disconnect between the standards we try and hold ourselves to at the top, at the professional level, and the actual resources that are going into it. And when you're coming from a place of lack, so more often than not, it's the same with theatres. And even like when you get on a job, finally, you're like that, here we go. And then you need to wait for that first paycheck, or you're coming from a place of lack already. So it means that you're not getting to experience it in the same way that other folk necessarily experience it.
Yeah.
I think it would just be nice to, as you say, come from a place of comfortability for once,
100%.
for everyone.
And that is such a good point. And do you know what's funny? I've talked about this show before. The amount of similarities between Scottish football and the Scottish arts scene.
Definitely.
There's a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
It's a great point you've made.
And it's a good thing to like tease out as well, because it's one of those, I think the more we can use analogies that don't just work for us, I think that's quite valuable as well, because when you can start to
100%.
kind of bridge that gap of like, we're not that different.
Yeah. Well, I've just got 2 more questions for you guys. The name of the show is Just a Real Job. So we'd all had to work jobs we'd hated over the years, but both of you, what's the worst real job or part-time job you'd had to do to support yourself as an artist?
Have you got one at the top of your head?
Not done.
I've had some belters. Oh no, man. You would think that I would have thought about this with the name of the podcast. Terrible jobs. This is a good one actually. I worked for a temping company when I lived down south, and some of them were great, some of them were like pop-ups. I worked for a great pop-up, Women Who Give a Shit it was called, and that was all like women-centric creatives and whatever. But the rest of them were like working in like hoity-toity, and that's not for want of a better word, they were hoity-toity. Hoity-toity, like your Harrods, I can't even think of the names of them because they were so outside of my tax bracket. But one of the ones that I went to work with was a popular and very expensive candle brand, and they had a shop in Shepherd's Bush, and it was the day that Boris Johnson had got elected, and I stood in Southend train station and I phoned my mum and I was crying and I was like, these are not my people, I need to come back up the road, what the hell? And then as I'm working in Diptyque and sugar, am I allowed to say it? Fuck, I was saying it now. As I'm working in the shop, the ex-chancellor of the Exchequer comes in, and yeah, that was pretty. That was a pretty like, what am I doing here moment, because I was like, I'm going to riot, but I can't. Yeah, so that was an interesting one where you're down there to be creative and you're down there to find your kindred spirits, and then everyone in the place that you're there to find kindred spirits votes for austerity and cuts.
In fairness, I think the people of London would argue that they mostly don't vote for the Conservatives.
Well, this is true, but I was there in London, I was in Essex.
Fair.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things, like, so Southend was such a brilliant place to do the course that I did, because it was so like...
Apologies for assuming you were...
No, don't be daft, you're fine, absolutely fine. Just apologies for slagging off a big brand.
The people of England will be like, well, we're not just London.
Yeah, well, exactly. And to be in Southend is one of those places that I think now they're reform, they've done that kind of swing, but until then they'd never not voted Tory, and I'd never seen so much homelessness. Sorry to make it all political, but that's kind of my modus operandi. They had never not voted Tory prior to that, and so I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, it was one of those ones that I was like, I've come down here to be creative, to find my niche, to do all these things, and then I found myself sniffing these stinking candles, talking to somebody that's put us in the position, talking about cuts and how we don't have any money in the arts.
The Tories one thing, because the Tories advert got a retrain site.
Yeah,
that's what
true.
Inspired me to start this podcast.
Amazing!
One positive thing they've done.
What, with the ballerina?
Yeah.
Love
it
that.
Through, didn't it?
That was crazy, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So that feels like another lifetime.
So it does.
Yeah, it does.
You thought that was bad?
I know.
I know.
I know. It's got maybe worse, is it?
Yeah.
Fraser, what's your worst part-time job or real job, if you thought of anything?
I don't know. I think I've sort of like, I had a couple of little like part-time jobs when I was in school, but they were nothing like terrible. I think I like have been quite, I don't know. I sort of did when I was at uni, I did a lot of like freelance videography stuff. And a lot of that was, was fine. I did a sort of stint of like filming, I did a stint like filming dance shows, like dance competitions, like all across Scotland, which like the money was like decent money for what it was. But I was like, I would have to like record these like dance shows all day, and it was like Dance Mums vibes, like it's really serious, and you're like in some like town hall in some random place, and I would like film it and then would like go home and have to like cut individual bits and then like send them to the individual dance companies. and I had so many like
Yeah.
dance mums email me back with complaints about my work.
Yeah.
I was just filming do you know what I mean? I was just pointing a camera at them. It was totally fine, but there was a lot of like, oh, I don't think I don't think I can remain in this world of dance competitions. That was pretty.
Yeah.
And I was like, 18, and I was like, this is pretty bad. So I'm sort of glad to have left that.
Yeah.
I've left that world.
I
Yeah.
fired at the Fringe. That wasn't too bad.
I feel like I couldn't do that job.
Yeah.
So I think it's solid.
You don't really do
No,
it. You
I think I don't.
depends on-
Yeah, I don't think firing's worth it anymore.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
Good luck to them all, though.
Yeah, no,
feel for
definitely.
them.
definitely.
I feel like whatever excuse you have to not take a flyer, they never believe you either.
No,
Well, I've just went for that exam would talk to a brick wall, but I have had to limit myself. So I had my first like no thank you at the Waverley today, but I think it has its place. So as long as you're nice to them and they do the Lord's work.
Your job, so I can't speak.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a podcaster. Leave me alone.
I've got last question for you. So we ask everyone that comes on the show what their closing advice would be to anyone that wants to sort of do what they do.
To do what I do, I guess my closing advice is like, I think there is an element of you're not going to be handed a show. No one's going to be like, oh great, thank God you've emailed me, perfect, I've actually got a show, come and do it. Or here's loads of money. I think especially as a director, you do have to prove that you can do the job to yourself as well. And I think that is hard and expensive and time consuming, but I think no one is going to turn around and be like, and give it to you. I think you do have to fight in the trenches a little bit and just like grab any opportunity to get actors together and get a venue and put a show on. That's the only way it's just that thing of like the only way to learn it is to do it, really. So I suppose my advice, if it's any advice, is like just do whatever you possibly can to direct something. And then you've done something and you can learn from that and then do the next one. I think it's like starting is the best way to continue, and no one, you're actually, especially if you're just beginning or in your early stages, you're actually like not entitled to get that really big funded show. You sort of have to, especially in an environment where there's so little resource. I think you do have to, for yourself more than anyone else, build a sense of who you are and how you want to work as an artist. Totally. And I think you have to just start by yourself and hope that then people start to pay attention.
Absolutely, that's great. Mate.
I'm howling at you saying nobody just comes and gives it to you, because that's literally what happened to me. I was in Comtown. Do you want Comtown? No, totally. No, you're spot on. I think for me, this is a bit. Can I say one? We'll find out. It's a bit like wishy-washy, but I think a lot of what I see is people being apologetically themselves, and I think what people have identified in me and what has bred work for me is that unapologetically, this is what I am and this is what you're going to get. And I'm also like, I work hard and I'm good at what I do, but I think people are afraid to that individuality, that word again, have that individuality, embrace it. That's your unique selling point. There's nobody else in the world like you. And so the minute that you put, especially as a creative, the minute you put yourself out there as a creative, being yourself, I think that makes it much easier to see for someone to see that they want you in the room. And then everything else comes after that, really. As long as you can act anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because you're coming from a place of being an actor. So I think it's you.
Because I think that it's true for everything, right? I think it's like if you try to imitate someone else, you're only ever going to be a lesser version of that person. So why would they choose you over the person that you're trying to be? I think it's that thing of like, as Olivia said, be yourself and accept what comes your way and take every opportunity.
And actually, one of my favourite phrases is like, so we're obviously giving advice, but I'm sure we've both been given advice. We've all been given advice through our careers, but I think my thing for other creatives is give that advice. What's that phrase? The lamppost, the ladder, or the
I
lifeboat?
always say, like, pull the ladders up.
Yeah, exactly. Pull the ladder up. No, don't pull the ladder up.
Oh,
Leave the ladder down.
Hey, do not do that. Hold the ladder.
Have my job.
Hold the ladders down.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's how we keep getting jobs. Yeah. Yeah.
I do that all the time, I swear.
No, totally. I think it's one of those ones where, you can be a solace, you can be the person in the industry that people aren't afraid to reach out to, that people aren't. I think that's lovely, and I think the more that we have of that, and the less afraid
100%.
and the less competitive, the better.
Well, thank you very much
Well,
for coming
thank
on
you.
the podcast. I realised we'd not talked about Profits, your other show, Fraser.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
in like 30 seconds, quickly.
Yes, great. Profits is a play that I'm directing. It's written by Jack McGregor, who's is a dear friend and a long-time collaborator and a very good playwright. It's at Assembly Roxy at 5:45. As of right now, we've only got a week left of ticket sales, so we might have sold out by the time this goes out. But if you are coming or if you can come, then it's good fun.
Well, there's links in the show notes for both shows.
Great,
so
perfect.
Please click below.
Yeah.
Please subscribe.
Come
to
see
Just Get a
Common
Blowjob.
Come and see Common Tongue.
And then listen to the next episode of this.
Yeah, exactly. And I've just launched another podcast recently called Screen Check as well, so please check that out.
And
Thank
congrats
you.
on 200. And
Thank you very much,
Not
both.
at all.
And thank you again to Assembly for having us. Thank you.
Just get a real job.